Welcome, welcome, welcome. Look, when you win championships starting out in Little League, state championships in high school, you go to college and win championships, and then you get an opportunity to coach and you still coach championships. Hey, that's who I have on here as our guest. Welcome to Unbreakable. Hey y'all, I'm here with my friend from high school. We played against each other in Detroit, Michigan PAL League. He was a part of a dynasty, the West Side Cubs, is still running the city today. Went to St. Martin de Porres. We played together. He was a defensive captain. I was an offensive captain. We played together for 4 years. And then this brother went to Bowling Green, and they won championships there. And then he coached at Bowling Green, and they still won championships. And then he went to Wake Forest, and they won championships at Wake Forest. So I want to welcome my brother. We're going to do this unraw, uncensored. John Hunter, what's going on with you, my brother?
Good morning, Kevin, and thank you so much for having me on Unbreakable, man. I absolutely love what you're doing, and I'm excited for you, man, and just keep grinding, keep doing what you're doing, brother. I'm proud of you.
Yes, yes. So look, one of the reasons, man, first, man, thank you so much for being here. You know, you taught me one of my first life lessons on peer to peer, what leadership looks like. And we talked about this before in that one game we won 8-7, and that other team scored first. Man, it was wet. It was the coldest night ever.
Yeah, it was.
And that team scored, and you came off the field and you said, "That's my fault. That's my fault." Now I don't know what you did, but I knew you was the captain and you took ownership of that. And when you came off that field, you said, "Bose, get it back." We went down that next drive, 15 play drive, gave me the ball 11. Thank God for Ernie. They faked it to me, gave it to Ernie. Ernie went over the top. We won that ball game 8-7. You taught me how to take ownership as a leader, no matter what was going on or whether you actually did the mistake. And I've always respected you for that life lesson. Thank you, brother. I love you for that lesson because it taught me what to look for in other people.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. And I spent a lot of time with Coach Thompson, and a lot of my teammates didn't know we would go together and watch little league games together, and I would pick his brain, and he would always talk about what good leaders have to be, willing to do. When you're in a leadership position, it's not a popularity contest. I would tell my players in college, half my teammates loved me, the other half hated me. And it was because if you weren't what we were about, and that was winning and doing your job, you probably didn't like me too much. But if you were with that, you loved me, and we did great things together. But as a leader, man, I think it's important to know what each of your guys, the people you're leading, how they respond to different things. Some guys, you got to coddle them. Hey, I need you. You can do it. I believe in you. And other guys, you can jump their bones and they'll respond. But you can't lead everybody the same way. And once you can figure out how to get the best out of people, it makes you a better team. So, I know the mistake you're talking about, and I don't really remember, but as a leader, sometimes you put it on yourself just to provide ease for the other guys around you.
That's powerful. So even if you don't actually make the mistake, you take the ownership so that your team, or whether you on the field or whether you off the field, so that your team can still perform, and they don't have to carry that burden.
That's it. That's it. You want them to be free, and you want them to be flying around, and you want them to play and trust the system.
Okay. So let me go here real quick. So how long did you play for the West Side Cubs?
I played for the West Side Cubs 4 years. 1 year I had to stop because of injury. That was my first year. And then I played 3 more years after that before going to the Poors.
Okay, how many championships did you win when you was at the Cubs?
We won every year, so I won 4.
See, he started off winning championships. Then we
Yeah,
went to DePores,
right,
and then we won 2 state championships at DePores.
right.
And then you went to Bowling Green. How many
Mhm.
championships did y'all win when you were actually playing as a player?
We won one MAC championship in '85. We were the only undefeated team besides Auburn that year in 1985, and we went undefeated that year.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
And then how long did you coach? You coached at Bowling Green as well, correct?
Yes.
Okay, how
Yes.
long did you coach there?
6 years at Bowling Green. Originally, I was on Coach Brandon's staff, and then Coach Clausen came aboard, and I was a holdover on his staff, and I was with him for 16 years.
Okay, okay. So that's a see, when they keep you around that long, that tells you the type of character that a person have because they want you around just because you shine and you can still help elevate the team. So that speaks to the type of character that you develop from Cubs to DePores to playing and then on the coaching staff.
Mm-hmm.
And so how many championships did y'all win as a coach, as a coaching?
At Wake or overall?
Well, how about let's start at Bowling Green and then let's go to Wake Forest.
Well, we won one. We tied for the conference a couple times at BG, but then we outright won it in 2013. Then at Wake Forest, we won bowl championships. We made it to the ACC championship in 21, but we lost the Pitt. But it was a great ride. And you look at Wake Forest, a school like Wake Forest being the smallest Power Five school in the country. That was a huge accomplishment for us.
Right, right. And then when you went to Wake Forest, what type of things did you guys do there?
Well, we had to start from the ground. You know what I mean? Coach Clausen is known all over the country for rebuilding programs. So when you look at his overall record, you may not be impressed, but you have to understand every program he took over was a losing program that he eventually turned into a champion. So we had to start from the ground up, recruit our type of players, and our thing was we want guys that love football, go to class, and fit us character wise. You know what I mean? I might recruit a guy that might be an inch shorter, a step lower, but he's an over or a step shorter or slower, but he's an overachiever. He's going to work hard and develop. And a lot of people don't realize at Wake Forest, there was a 4 year span where Wake had the second most amount of all ACC players behind Clemson. And you would never think that when you got Miami, North Carolina, NC State, all these powerhouses. But how does little old Wake produce these type of players? And many of the players we recruited had one or no Power Five offers, but they were kids that had a chip on their shoulder. They worked their tails off. They were just absolutely great young men, and they developed into 4-star guys. When you got them, they weren't, some of them didn't even have stars in the recruiting process. But by the time they developed and left, they were 4-star players.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So you've seen it all. I had an opportunity to play you guys in Little League in the championship, which we lost. But
You
it
scored
was
though.
yeah, I did. I was able to score. And then we played together with 2 state championships, and then I
Yes.
had an opportunity to play at Michigan State under Nick Saban, and Charlie Baggett recruited me, and George Perlis with 4 Super Bowl rings, and so I was able to take those principles off the field to the boardroom, and still was able to produce some top results off the field
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't get an opportunity to continue to pursue coaching for that amount of time. God had a different plan for me. I did have opportunity to be a college head coach, in which I took over a losing program they hadn't won in 3 years. And so I've seen the ingredients of what unsuccess looks like, and I've seen and experienced what championship looks like. My whole purpose and whole goal now is to coach people in life
Mm-hmm.
off the field.
Mm-hmm.
So it's in your family life, it's in your personal life, and it's in your professional life that we coach in. And so Unbreakable, the U really is about an unshakable mindset. And that's kind of where I want to focus right now. And so let me ask you this one question. From all of the championships in Little League, to college playing and after college, what's one mindset that carried over at every level in order to be able to win? What are some mindsets that transferred over?
I think one of selflessness. You know, you have to realize and recognize that it's bigger than you. You know, and everybody wants to score touchdowns. Everybody wants the stats. But if you can get a group of gentlemen that put that aside for the betterment of the collective, you know, that's the one thing in my mind. And there's a lot of things that go into being a successful football program or athletic program, whatever. But you have to be selfless. You have to put the team ahead of yourself. And sometimes that's difficult. You know, you got guys coming from all walks of life, different backgrounds. And when we come together, we have to leave all those things at the door for the common good. And all of the championship teams I've been a part of and programs that I've been a part of all had that sense of selflessness.
Wow, that's tough because there's a lot of programming in the world now that teaches you to be selfish.
Right, right.
And selfish is not a formula for success.
Not at all. Not at
Yeah.
all. And
Okay.
you know, especially with the game changing now with the NIL, the transfer portal, you know, and this is just my humble opinion. We're teaching young men how to quit. When you face adversity now, you know, no longer are you fighting through it. You know, now you just transfer to school X, you know, and if you don't like it there, hey, transfer to school B, you know. So I definitely think that players should be compensated without question, but I think there needs to be regulations on it because right now it's just the wild, wild west, and it makes it really hard to manage your roster. You coming out of spring ball, for example, and you think you got your roster set, well, the portal opens up again, and you may be missing half your ball players, and then you know now you're saying from July to August, I got to get all these guys ready to play, and they're learning a totally different system and a totally different way of doing things, and that just makes it really tough right now.
Right, right. I do understand that. At Michigan State, I saw guys walk away from their scholarships my freshman year. And man, I had that 1,000-mile stare in my eye because, you know, in high school, I thought, you know, Tom, I thought he, you know, was crazy. It's funny, me and Big Al Simmons, me and Al Hill, we would catch the bus, two buses at 5 a.m. to be to practice at 6.
Oh
And
yeah.
then still had track practice and wrestling practice afterwards.
Oh yeah. And
So
what you didn't realize though, you know, when you're going through it in high school, he was preparing you for the next level because the grind is very similar at the next level.
yes, it is.
And when you get
Ooh,
there,
yes, it is.
you can kind of see the guys who were prepared for that, and you can kind of see the guys that really struggle with that because they didn't realize the grind was the grind.
Right, right. Now, mentally, I was prepared. Physically, I was not prepared. My body needed to catch up. And
Right.
so I saw guys kind of like what you said, you know, with transfer, I'm leaving, going somewhere else. When sometimes you have to let your body adjust to the situation so that you might not, you know, bust off real fast your first year or even your second year. But man, if you stay to the grind and true to the work ethic, just like in anything, you'll be able to shine because I did eventually start getting some playing time.
Right.
You know, that did happen for me.
Mhm.
And then I had a career-ending injury, and again, thank God that we did experience what we did, because I was able to take them same work ethics on the field and take them and apply them off the field.
Right. Right.
Which is going to take me to my next question that I want to focus on. So it's the B for built under pressure. And so my question would be, how do you see people handling pressure when the need for emotional control is needed? So if you're able to control your emotions, you're able to achieve what level of things? When you don't have emotional control, what sort of things do you fall by the wayside when it comes
Mhm.
down to winning and being successful.
Well, in my opinion, football is an emotional game, but you can't play it emotionally. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So, you want to be hyped up, you want to be fired up to play, but at the same time, you have to rein that in. You have to rein those emotions in and focus at the task at hand. It's you've heard it all your life. It's one play at a time, but that's absolutely true. And I was always taught from a very young age, when things are going well, you can't get too high. You expect it to go well because of the work you put in and the preparation you put in. But it's going to be adversity, whether it be in a football game, whether it be in a season, whether it be with you and injuries, you're going to face adversity. And that's where the game teaches you life lessons if you're paying attention.
Right.
So if you can just try and stay in the middle, and just keep grinding, whether it's going well or whether it's going bad, if you can just stay in the middle of it and keep grinding, typically, it's going to work your way. I always believe that good is the enemy of great. A lot of times when
That's
people
good.
reach a situation where they feel like they're good, they stop working and they stop developing because they think they've arrived. But, good can be the biggest enemy of great, because if you stayed level and grounded and kept working, you could reach that status that you dreamt of as a kid.
That's right. That look, I experienced it. Uh, I started out. I was not ready. I didn't get mad at transfer. I said I'm going to make them play me.
Mm-hmm.
And going into my third year, uh, it was pushing and shoving every day on the field because I would go at 120%, and some cats wanted to just go 90. Look, I'm getting off the scout team.
Right.
And that really was how I was able to then start traveling and then actually getting some playing time. And so and life is so funny because you start getting playing time and then you're looking forward to next season, and then in a no contact practice with just helmets on, somebody fell on the back of my foot, broke 3 bones, cracked 2, broke 3, dislocated 5, and had to get 2 pins put in, a 1 percentile injury. And so bounce back and unbreakable is about, what do you do next? What
Mm-hmm.
do you do when you go to college? Are you planning on getting a degree, a master's, and then starting your own business? Are you planning on going pro, and then while you are there, you are going to get a degree, you're going to get your master's, you're going to learn how to network, and because those things happen, what are you planning for 2 steps down the road, like a chess player?
Right. Right. And I've heard different answers on the spectrum. For example, some people will believe don't have a plan B because that gives you a fallback. Other people believe in having a plan B. And you have to take advantage of the resources that provided on the college level. Obviously you're getting an education that can take you farther than your football career ever could take you. You know what I mean? I tell guys all the time, you see this gut right here? Well, when I was your age, it used to be up here, but gravity is taking a hold of me. So at some point, the playing is going to stop. But the
Right.
life lessons you learn, if you do it the right way and take full advantage of your college opportunity, you won't go wrong. If you
That's
leave
right.
out of there with a piece of paper, you use the game to make your life a little better. You're still gonna have those peaks and valleys. But if you leave there without the degree, you just let football use you. You know
That's
what I
right.
mean? And that's what
That's
I've always told my players. But when guys go through injuries, again, that's just another form of adversity. And it's not the way it was when I played. For example, if you got injured, you felt like you weren't a part of the team because you're getting rehab, you're in the training room and you're watching all your guys walk out to the practice field. The coaches are walking by the room, nobody's checking on you. So you kind of get down and you get a little depressed because you feel like you're not a part of the team. But if
that's
you
right.
have a solid foundation, whether it be your faith, whether it be your family, a combination of both, again, just stay in the middle and keep grinding and you'll be back out there. And sometimes you won't be, but if you're not, if it's not an injury where you can't play any longer, now you got to focus on those in the classroom and take care of your business that way.
That's right. That's right. And before I go to my next letter, I want to let you know that I'm 900% in agreement with you. You have a plan A, and if that doesn't work out, you get a new plan A.
Right, right.
But you have a vision, and a lot of people don't have a vision when they go into an endeavor, and so
Hmm.
they think, just like any job, they tell you when you are in a career oriented or you're in a job, look, always interview 3 times a year just to keep your skill set developed, because you
Hmm.
never know when a company will say, okay, we're going to downsize, or hey, we don't like you today, or we don't like what you did, and bye. And if you don't have a vision for what your purpose is, then you could get lost, which takes me to my next letter. It is the R for resilience training. And it's really to be able to bounce back after, or adapt under pressure when there's been a major change. And so what sort of things have you seen people do from an injury, or they go pro and they may make it 1 or 2 years and then they get injured? What sort of things do the successful people do after an injury or adversity? And what sort of things do people, when they fail or lose or go into a deep rabbit hole, what sort of things do they do?
Well, when you look at our game, right, you have to ask yourself, from a coach's standpoint, does this player like football? Does he love it, or is he compelled? And at Wake Forest, we put a lot of young men in the pros. And remember, like I said earlier, a lot of those guys coming out of high school had one or no offers. They didn't have, 4 or 5 stars, but they were compelled. They were consumed with becoming better each and every day. And so if you have that mindset, you know, that'll take you further than your athletic ability ever will. Now, we both have seen guys that are just truly gifted. You know what I mean? They
Mm-hmm.
got all the tools, but, more times than not, they don't pan out like you think they could because of where their talent could have taken them.
That's right.
Conversely, you have a young man that might not have all those tools, probably doesn't, right? But he's compelled. He's working hard every day. We had a quarterback who's still in the league, John Wolford. That's with Tampa Bay, and he got picked up, got a Super Bowl with the Rams. This kid was 5'11", tough as nails, probably one of, if not the toughest football player I've ever seen. But we were coming back from Florida State, got back at 4 in the morning, and I forgot a bag in the running backs room, so I had to go back in the office and get a bag. Walking through the hallway, I see the quarterback room open. So I'm figuring someone just left the door open. And I go to close the door. John Wolford is in there 4 o'clock in the morning watching the film of the game he just played. Mind you, we're going to watch it tomorrow as a team. But that kid was compelled. He came in 5'11". He was overweight, got his body in shape. He went from a 5 flat to a 4.6. He just worked and worked and worked and willed himself into a tremendous football player. So, you got that guy, and then you have the guys that if they don't have a solid foundation, when they face that adversity, if they don't have enough guys putting their arms around them, loving them up, it makes it very tough for them to get out of that hole.
Wow, wow. You said a mouthful, because it's the same thing I've seen. It's not microwave. This is success. Isn't it? Isn't a microwave process. Relationships are not a microwave process.
Right.
Anything that you do and anything that you're working on to get better at in life, you have to put the work in, and it's really about being consistent. If you stay consistently go to the weight room, consistently watch your film, consistently eat right, hit your books. Now, if you off the field, consistently do professional development, consistently watch leadership videos, consistently listen to books on tape that's going to help you with your next level, your purpose, or something that you're pursuing, and you stay consistent at it. Consistency is what really wins the race.
Without question. And you hit it on the head because successful people leave clues. You know what I mean? And
Ooh.
if you pay attention to that, whether they read a lot of books, a lot of different books, they're always trying to improve themselves in some area. They leave clues. But if you're not paying attention, you miss those. But I go back to my freshman year. We had an All-American, Martin Blake Bayless, who played with San Diego and in Buffalo for many years. And as a freshman, I knew I wasn't ready. I didn't have that ego. You know what I mean? I was underweight, I had to get stronger, whatever. But I watched him. I watched how he handled himself in the locker room. I watched how he practiced. I watched how he interacted with the coaches and the training staff. And I just shut my mouth and watched him. And he taught me so much on how to be a professional. Now we're in college, but just how to treat people with class and character. You know what I mean? And I took those lessons. In the next 4 years. That position was mine, and nobody could take it.
Wow, that's amazing, because I had the strongest running back work with me for 2 years, Carl Butler. Never forget that guy. That dude's thigh was as big as my torso. One thigh was big as my torso, but he worked out on that bench. He got me stronger, and it was him who taught me how to work out physically in the weight room at the college level. And going into my third year, my third or my fourth year, I was the strongest back in the bench press.
Yeah.
But it didn't come from my own, my own accolades. I had somebody helping me.
Right.
And so Hunter, we have 3 minutes left. I want people to know what sort of things that they should focus on off the field. What sort of things, even if they're in athletics right now, whether you in high school, whether you in AAU, whether you playing in PAL, or what sort of things should you be focusing on to be successful off the field? If you could give us 3 or 4 main things that you would do, that would be phenomenal.
First of all, work on the fundamentals. And so many times the fundamentals can be boring, right? If you're a basketball player, working on layups, working on dribbling with your offhand, working, moving without the ball, all those little things. But work on those fundamentals, because I would tell my players, your playbook is your Bible in battle. Your rules to your position is your Bible in battle. And when you face adversity and the bullets are flying and it's chaos, that's your foundation that you can go back to, and it'll carry you through that contest or through that adversity. The next thing I'd say is surround yourself with positive people and like-minded people, because so much today you see what we call as coaches street agents, and some of them are very positive, don't get me wrong, but you have these guys in the kids' ear. They're playing you in the wrong position. If you transfer over here, I can get you to play this, I can get you to play that. But if you just stay grounded and focused and don't listen to all the outside noise, the chances are you're going to succeed. But when you're pulled in 100 different directions by 100 different people who ultimately want something from you, not necessarily and not all the time do they want the best for you. Some people legitimately see a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, and they want a piece of it. And I hate to say it that way, but that's what's happening out here.
That's right.
But if you can block all that out, you've got a chance. It's about being compelled and being grounded and being focused on the goal at hand. And like you said, it's not a microwave society. It's a microwave society, but the game doesn't work that way. Football or any athletic sport is a jealous mistress. And if you cheat on her, she's going to slap you and embarrass you at the worst possible time. And so with that in mind, I would tell one of my players who's doing really good right now, and I'm proud of him, keep the main thing, block out all the noise and focus on you, and not in a selfish way. You know what I mean? But you told me when you got here, you want to be great. And we talked about what those steps would take and what they look like to get you great. But if I'm listening to this gentleman who's telling me I should be getting the ball 30 times instead of 20 and 15, if I'm listening to this guy who says they should be using you more in the pass game, now you're pulling away from your teammates, and that's your family, So focus on the fundamentals, surround yourself with like-minded people, and stay focused on the grind.
Hunter, my brother, I appreciate you coming through the Unbreakable podcast. Thank you for dropping all your years of championship, man. Thank you for the life lessons that you've taught me that you didn't even know. I've followed you. I've watched you for years. You're my brother. I love you. We've known each other since high school. We played against each other in little league, and we still doing things to coach people in life to be successful and to be happy. Thank you for coming by the Unbreakable podcast and sharing your wisdom and experience. I appreciate you. You got to come back and see us sometime.
Anytime you call, man, I'll be there for you, man. Much love for you. I love what you're doing and keep doing it. You're doing great things. Proud of you, man. And again, just thanks for having me. My honor.
All right. Hey, look, everybody. That life lesson that he said, when you cheat on your discipline, it's like a jealous mystery. Hey, that's your job. That's your family. That's your wife. That's your own personal development. That when you start doing things that cheat, you really cheating on yourself with
That's
yourself,
it. That's
doing
it.
some old mess. And so stay focused, focus on the principles, surround yourself by good people, and continue to be developed. And look, I'm going to tell you this. I am a Christian man. I do love the Lord. I just want people to be successful, and I want to see people win. With that being said, hey, we will see you next Friday. Thank you again, brother. Hey, welcome to Unbreakable. Have a safe weekend.
Much
Peace.
love, man. Keep doing what you're doing. Thanks for having me.
All right.